Good afternoon, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming and thanks for Karin, yes, my colleague, who was the heart behind this workshop, a workshop called The Evolution of Things. So I guess I owe you an explanation. What is the evolution of things? It is evolution, meaning selection and reproduction with heredity in a population of physical artifacts, not virtual or digital artifacts. And if you think about it, you can distinguish several subclasses or cases, whether or not these physical artifacts are active and have agency or are just passive. You could evolve, in a population of sunglasses, where the fitness function would be, the commercial success. Whether they are, when active and having agency, also able to learn or not, or only evolution, and whether they coexist in a shared space or only come to existence one by one, as normally you would have in evolutionary robotics projects. The whole concept has already more than 10 years of history. So I started to, think about it in the early 2010s. And in the TED Talk in 2011, I called it the embodied artificial evolution vision. And a year later, the vision paper with Serge Kenbach and Evert Haasdijk came out in the Evolutionary Intelligence Journal called Embodied Artificial Evolution, Artificial Evolutionary Systems in the 21st Century. And that's when the term the evolution of things was coined. So that was it. We needed artificial evolution, but also embodied because we wanted to go digital, physical, not digital. And the name was elevated to a title in a very well-received paper in Nature, together with James Smith, where the paper was called From Evolutionary Computation to the Evolution of Things. And even deeper in the matter, when the paper a few years later with David Howard and Jean-Baptiste Mouret and a couple of material scientists about evolving embodied intelligence from materials to machines. So this is the history of the name. So that vision paper from 2012 is still valid. Interestingly, we very well understood the challenges. First and foremost, of you build such a system of what? And so the three approaches we identified: bottom-up, bigger and bigger molecules that you still can manipulate and core until they start self-reproducing and evolving in the real world. Also, top-down biologists could slip biological cells that are capable of self-reproduction, but they are not programmable and controllable, so they have to make it more simple. Or guys like us, engineers, head-on, perhaps using 3D printing for reproduction. And the list of grand challenges is still a list of grand challenges. None of these has been really solved. What kind of phenotypes do you use? How do the robots look like? Are they made of what? How to start? How do you create children of these robots? How to stop if you really have to? And a lot of others. Our current interest in Amsterdam is body and brain evolution together with learning. In the 2015 paper in Nature with James Smith, we put the whole thing into a context of 200 years. In the 19th century, natural evolution was not invented, but discovered and described by Darwin and biologists in vitro, in vivo. That's what is happening in the biosphere, and you and me are part of that process. In the 20th century, there was a major transition, if you will, from hardware to software. Because of the invention of the computer, it was possible to create digital evolutionary systems. That's what we know as evolutionary computing. And he postulated that in the 21st century, there will be another major transition now from software to hardware, from in silico to in material, and that is, or will be, the evolution of things. And the last paper about this I want to mention is in Nature Machine Intelligence, where that paper presents two very important concepts. One is multi-level evolution, where together with the material scientists, there was a layer underneath, okay? It's not just the robots and the component configurations, but also the materials under it that will allow us to make real well-suited robots made of different stuff for different purposes and environments. And the other main concept in that paper is hybrid evolution, acknowledging that physical robot evolution may be too slow. We don't have million years for such a project. It has to be much faster. So hybrid evolution is a concept of having a real-world robot population and a simulated robot population with the key feature with the same genetic language. This is key because this allows cross-fertilization. It allows to have a physical father and a virtual mother because the DNA is, combinable. And then the offspring can be incarnated in either or both of the worlds. It also gives us a mechanism for transfer between two worlds. You just send the DNA and the production system of that world makes a digital twin or a physical twin. So this offers the best of both worlds. Nobody has built such a system, though, because we don't have the physical evolving robot systems yet. But, the concepts are already there. And of course, these ideas don't emerge in a vacuum, okay? And this is a bunch of iconic papers, and I'm really happy, Jordan, you are here, because you are the co-author of the first one, 2000 paper, the Golem system, and several others which worth mentioning. I will just mention 3 of them in detail, okay? You will see why and how I put the border. Border is whether evolution happens in simulation or not. So 5 of these have a simulated evolutionary process. Everything is digital in the computer, okay, in a virtual world. And some of the robots or artificial organisms, okay, are made in the physical world. They are constructed and built and tested, perhaps. And there's another set of papers, 3 of them, where evolution, at least reproduction, takes place in the physical world, okay? So the Robot Baby project in Amsterdam, the Autonomous Robot Evolution project, you will have a talk about from Leonie, and another project on the next slide, which is it running yet? Oh, come on, sorry. Okay. So this is a very nice system where robots are, within brackets a little bit, okay? They are just constructs of blocks, cubes, and some of these are actuated. The white cubes have a face that can move, and that actuates the whole thing, okay? And the digital DNA, the genotypes, are all sitting in a virtual realm, but the phenotypes are physical robots, and what you see here is the birth process conducted by what they call the mother robot, this arm. Reproduction only uses mutation, no crossover here. Selection is based on fitness, which is related to the speed of locomotion. And the physical robots are constructed in one of the experiments completely handless. So this is a big step, proof of concept of autonomous robot reproduction. In the other experiment, it was human assisted. However, it's a bit of a stress to call these robots because they don't have an onboard controller, they don't have sensors, okay? And their way of locomotion is really a little bit simplistic, as you will see in a second. This is the moment of birth, if you will, okay? So the robot is ready, it is put outside of the, construction area, and this is the fitness evaluation happens. So all this is very nice, okay? Yeah. But these systems have some property, they miss a property, they cannot answer a very fundamental question. And that fundamental question is how I met your mother. And why are they not able to answer this? Because they never meet each other. All these guys are only incarnated for a very limited period of time when the fitness is measured, and then they are disassembled and disappear. So there is no chance of meeting anyone. It's just an oracle that says, okay, I need your DNA and that DNA, and I will combine it into another robot. So this is completely different in the Robot Baby project that we ran in 2015 and 2016. It started with 2 robots and it ended up with 3 robots, okay? And there is a good reason to say that the 3rd robot is the child of the first 2. Here is the first family, okay? No Joe and Jill or Donald and Melania. It is the gecko, the spider, and the baby. So this was actually motivated also by a model from 2013, the Triangle of Life model, which was a model for evolving robots in the real world, in real time and real space. And it postulates that after creating the phenotype, delivering the physical robot, to the specification in the genotype, there must be a stage when the newborn robot learns, undergoes improving its controller in the same given body. And only after passing a test, maturity test, it will be allowed to act as a grown-up robot and, do what a robot does in evolution robotics, also create offspring. So this was motivated by real-world robot evolution, but later on we found out that it's not only for real-world evolution, it's for all evolutionary processes where the morphology and the controller, the body and the brain evolve together, simulated or real. And Emma Hart and myself put it in a very punchy statement: if it evolves, it needs to learn, which was presented 4 years ago on the Gecko workshop. This also says the triangle of life architecture or system model is a must. You have to do that. And as for the evolutionary guys and girls amongst us, it only means that the canonic loop of evolution, the green thing on the left-hand side, needs an extra module. After reproduction, you need to do learning first, and then you go to evaluation. Your fitness is evaluated after you finish learning. So the Robot Baby project, published in the Life Journal, is actually a proof of concept of real-world robot reproduction, mind you. There was no evolution because there was only one generation, okay? So, but if you do one, then iteratively you could do more if you had enough time and resources and funding. And of course, we cut a lot of corners here, but this is the first minimal implementation of the triangle of life architecture. Then the talk of Lenny, which I don't want to, of course, do that talk. It was a UK project together with Amsterdam, because I also have an affiliation with York, whose main ambition was autonomous robot reproduction, not only evolution. And one of the most important things that we created is this birth clinic, the reproduction center. More about this in a short time. So looking at these results, now I want to have more structure on dividing the literature. On the left-hand side, you still have those projects where evolution takes place completely in simulation. But the right-hand side can be given more structure now, okay? So you can distinguish systems further whether or not there is learning or only evolution, and whether or not the population members really coexist. Can they meet each other? Can they really answer the question, how I met your mother? So there are 4 options in theory and 3 are already filled, okay? So Fumia Uder's project, the Cambridge project with the blocks, is in the no, okay? The ARE project is in the no, yes, and our Amsterdam system is in principle in the yes corner. We are still not there, actually. So I recall the original picture that I started on the first slide. Okay, so this is the grand vision, having an evolving robot colony maybe on another planet to make it habitable. And there we are not there yet. So the question is, how far are our current robots from the system? Now, looking around in my lab, the answer is simple: 5 meters. But that means that to bridge that gap of 5 meters, it easily can take 15 years of research and development. We are not standing still though, so let me finish with just 3 brief summary of our scientific discoveries. What we have learned in this mostly simulated, sometimes hardware. Ending lifetime alters the evolved bodies, okay? You do something to the brains and the result is visible on the body. The learning delta is growing over generations. I will tell you more in a second. Why is this amazing and why is this good news? And Lamarck beats Darwin. So one paper I want to highlight is this one, where we have the system is 2 versions. One was all evolving, another one was using the same number of evaluations distributed over evolutionary evaluations and learning evaluations. And if you have learning evaluations, then of course you expect that the fitness values will be better. And I realize the letters are too small, but it's like 10 times higher fitness values. But also, and that was the amazing thing, you get completely different bodies, okay? So if you train your brain over the, not in one robot, but over the many generations that evolution is using, you will get a completely different morphology. So the optimal life form will be different if those robots can also learn. That's quite interesting. The other paper that started with an investigation of Karim Miras compared learning and evolution with evolution only. And we define something which we call the learning delta. It is the performance before learning, right after birth, and after learning, when the robot baby finishes the robot school. And I would have bet money on the fact that the learning delta will go down over the evolution because there is less and less headroom. They are good and better and better and better, so there is not much to learn anymore. To our great surprise, this was not the case, actually. So the learning delta was growing, and it is also verified in different systems, different papers. And the second paper is a completely different system. Everything is different. Robots are different. DNA is different, genotypes and phenotypes, and still the learning data is going. So this is really good news, actually. Okay, interesting news, discovery, and good news. Last but not least, Lamarck beats Darwin. So Lamarck was a biologist who mistakenly thought that traits that you acquire individually during your lifetime will be inherited by your children, okay? So the fact that you are an excellent football player or piano player, I don't know, speak 6 languages, will make your children be able to all that because they will inherit it from you. Now we know it's not that, okay? So we know genetics as the basics of inheritance. But what doesn't exist on Earth, we still can prove in our robot evolution system. That's why we like artificial life, because, we can test things that not necessarily work in the real world. And what we see is what we expected, actually. So Lamarckian evolution is way more efficient, way more effective, and the learning delta is also going much harder. So this is, a short summary of what we have learned over the last couple of years. What next? We really need a big leap forward, making our systems much more realistic. With all due respect to everyone, including ourselves, papers about completely artificial systems that are in a very simple environment, doing only one task with no sensors whatsoever, is not really relevant on the long term. We know the science, of course, we understand the regularities, but to come closer to the grand vision, these guys need sensors. These will have to be able to address multiple skills, more complex tasks, maybe even complete missions in interesting, complex environments. And one of the latest trends is using soft materials, which open up very new avenues for new modes of actuation and sensing. And as for the real-world evolution, what we need is practicable reproduction system, preferably without human hands. And the AI project didn't really get there, okay? But we just have to wait for the technology to bring us, the basics, and then at a certain moment, we may be able. But also longer autonomy. So nobody is concerned about the energy efficiency of these robots. And in many of the theoretical papers, there is no energy in the model at all. But if you want them really work on in the physical realm, they will use energy, so they will have to be able to recharge themselves. And ultimately, even though you can have an evolution running in a way that you only incarnate these robots in isolation until they get a fitness value, the grand vision sees, a whole population of robots in the same environment. And my last comment is, this is also science. This is not just engineering. We are not just toying around and playing with robots. This is some deep science which allows us to investigate questions about evolution, the evolution of intelligence, the interaction between body and brain. And to do the science, we need tools and methods for analysis. And there are little steps, there are better and better tools, but that should be a common concern for all of us here. Now, put it in a bigger context. So if we had this system in the real world, we would be responsible. Then think of nuclear scientists, okay? Fundamental research led to the atomic bomb and radiation hazard. 30 years later, okay, biochemists try to understand the origin of life, and now we also have biological warfare. So 30 years again, there we are, okay, working on these things, so we may be also causing some robo-hazard. And as a responsible scientist, we just don't want to have that. So what we need is really a kill switch. We need to be able to shut down a physical robot evolution system if we want it. And to be able to do that, the key is denying and rejecting all distributed reproduction systems. So we don't want robotic equivalent of cell division or eggs or pregnancy because they are all distributed. What we want is a centralized, externalized reproduction system where that infrastructural unit that allows you to make robot children is the kill switch. If you shut that down, robot evolution will stop. Robots won't die, but evolution will stop, okay? And mind you, this does not invalidate the concept of evolution. It will be evolution, but a completely different way. And to finish, I want to recall a beautiful book of George Bongard and Ralph Pfeiffer, whose title is, to paraphrase it, How the Body Shapes the Brain. Now, with this technology, we can invert the question. We can investigate questions about how the brain shapes the body. And if you remember the first paper about our scientific discoveries, we know it does. We don't know how, but it can be investigated with this technology. If you blow up and zoom out and include all the aspects that are at play here, we have the bodies and the brains. They generate some behaviors in some environment, maybe driven by some tasks, some algorithms. Altogether, this is a diamond that represents 20 years of research programs. So that's where I think our community is heading. In Amsterdam, we are trying to focus on the impact of tasks and environment until we really get something which is the evolution of things, meaning brain sitting in a body, sitting in an environment, interacting in very complex ways, making it adaptive by evolution and learning. And down the road, in 10 years, 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, we will have something which will be really physical, tangible, artificial life. And I think it will be life, but not life as we know it. Thank you.